Okay, folks, we're on a roll. I was going to do these one a day. I was going to start in January 1st, do one, and just do one clear up to the build up the release of the CD. I haven't did that. This is actually the 17th, but I'm on a roll now with these. I'm getting excited. I love doing these videos and telling you about the CD, give you some backstory. So this is episode number 8 of the Rock and Roll CD. We're still on the Rock CD itself. But it's episode 8. It's called Pete's Song. And this was actually dedicated to my grandmother. Her name was Agnes. I always want to say Angus, but it was Agnes. I can't remember her middle name. I want to say it might be Ray. Agnes Ray McFarland. That might be right. But we always called her Pete. And we never called her grandma when we was younger. Never called her grandma. Because the story goes, we had, two grandmas. My mom's mom and Pete was my dad's mom. My mom's name was Ethel Timmons, and we always called her Grandma. And then I think me or my brother said, why do we have two grandmas? And then Pete said, just call me Pete so you won't get us mixed up. So we always called her Pete. I called her Pete until I was, I think in my 40s. So I just called her Pete. I think my brother did too. So anyways, this is the Pete song, the story behind that. And what had happened was my grandma lived to be 91, which is an awesome run for anybody. And she was a ball of fire. Folks, she got around better than I do here in my 40s. And what she would do, she moved to New Mexico when I think I was 4 or 6 years old. So we only seen her once every 2 or 3 years. Guys, settle down. They're out back here wrestling a little bit. So anyways, we'd only see her once every 2 or 3 years. So we wasn't really super close to her. But I think back in, I can't remember, in the 90s, I think she moved back to Ohio. So we'd see her a little bit more. But I remember, I think she was 90. And for one time for Easter, she had just broken her hip and she was limping around. And I remember when she left, I just had a feeling. I said, I don't think she's going to be here much longer because she was so active and that hip really slowed her down. Well, come to find out, I think 3 months after that, she was in the hospital. She had, I think, 60% blockage of her heart. I want to say 50% blockage of her kidneys. They put her in a nursing home. And then she got wheelchair bound. I said, if anything, that's going to kill her because, if she had a little red truck, that was her freedom. She'd drive that little truck all over the place. She would actually help people out. They had a handicap volleyball league. Even though she wasn't handicapped at the time, she would be in a wheelchair and play volleyball with these folks. So she actually was in a nursing home over in Lancaster. So at that time, right around there, there was a book called Tuesdays with Maury. And the author, I think his name was Mitch Albom, would visit Maury every Tuesday, talk about life and learn so much from him. So I called this Wednesdays with Pete. Me, my brother, and Dad would go over every Wednesday. Whoever was available and could, with their work schedule, would go over every Wednesday and we'd visit with Pete. There's my old buddy Rusty. He's still in the picture. You want to get back in here, buddy? You come over here? So anyway, old Beanie too. I ain't got room for both of you. So anyways, we'd call this Wednesdays with Pete. So we'd run over there and talk to her. And sometimes I'd be by myself. The other two couldn't come for some reason. Or maybe Ed might be by himself. But most of the time, all three of us was there. Or at least two of us was. So it was Wednesdays with Pete. And, it was sad on one hand of watching, somebody you love slowly deteriorate. And I remember she'd asked the doctor one time, because the doctor only gave her three months to live after she was in there. And so the 3 months had come and gone. I think it was in the 4th month. And she asked the doctor, why is it taking so long? And she meant, why is it taking so long for me to die? She was in such good health. She was like 90 years old, still driving, walking, and doing all this stuff. And I think the key was she was serving people. And, I'm 46. I'm just kind of getting this now. Some of my friends and stuff have been talking about serving and supporting each other. I think that was the key to her longevity. She was supporting each other, other people. And she was such in good health and had such a spirit of life that it took longer than what the doctors thought because she was in such a good health. So a couple funny stories real quick. One time she was coming down the hall. She just got out of her shower. She was in her wheelchair. She didn't have her glasses on. And I was right by her room. I said, hey, how you doing? She goes, pretty good, sir. She just kept on going. She didn't recognize me. So my lesson of this whole thing was, hey, buddy, you coming back up here, Rusty? He just wants to be up here with me. My lesson of this whole thing was, and I want to impress upon you this. I know it was sad. It's sad to see somebody deteriorate like that. But when we had those visits with Grandma, sometimes she would talk out of her head. And one time she asked me, did you bring your banjo with you? And it just brought me to tears. I didn't really realize she was talking out of her head because, the medication she was on. And, she's, at the end of her life and was phasing in and out of consciousness, but was still, talking. And I broke down in tears and, I got enough nerve up to say, Grandma, I love you. Because I didn't know if I'd see her again. And I wasn't really close to her, but I wanted her to know that I did care. But I'd only play the banjo for her maybe once or twice in my whole life. But somehow she said, did you play the banjo for me? And that really sparked an idea. And I went home that night and I wrote Pete's song. But the thing was, I didn't have any banjo on it. It was just a guitar instrumental. And I thought I did a pretty good job. I had a few mistakes. I never corrected them. I left it on there. But that was a good song. So I played rhythm guitar. I think I had maybe 2 guitars, tracks on there, bass, and then lead guitar on Pete's song. That's how it was from the day I recorded to when I went in the studio. So I told Jack, I said, hey, I want to record this song, Pete's song. And I told him the whole story I just told you. I said, she wants banjo on there. I said, I got to come up with some kind of banjo line. And my buddy Rusty's getting tired. So anyways, I wanted to come up with some kind of banjo line. So I worked on it. I came up with a banjo line. And then I came up with 2 things. So what I did a rhythm guitar and another rhythm guitar. I think I did the exact same thing, so it sounds really thick and full, I think. Then I played bass on it. Then I came up, I said, Joe, I got 2 ways I can play banjo. I said, I can do a roll or I can do a rhythm thing. And I played him both. He goes, let's just play both of them. He said, your grandma wanted banjo on there. Let's give her 2 banjos. I said, what an awesome idea. So we did the same thing. We did a banjo on the left, which I did rolls on. Then we did a banjo on the right, which I did some more rhythm on. So I got the banjo on there for my grandma. But I almost forgot to tell you. When she said, play your banjo for me, I went home and wrote Pete's song. And I wanted to bring it to her next week and play it for her. But I just think she was just too far gone. I don't think she would have really comprehended what I did. And I don't think she would have understood. So she never got to hear it then, but I hope she hears it now. And I wrote this song for her, and for me, I got to see the soul of my grandma. And what I mean by that, my grandma was one of those people that her hair was always perfect. She had color in her hair until the day she died. Now, 2 days before she died, the collar started draining. And when she died that night, when we came over and visited her when she died, her hair was snow white. It lost all its color. Again, your body drains that out of you. But she still had some color in her hair until she was 91. But what I wanted to say, the beauty of the song, the beauty of the whole moment was I got to see the person, the soul of the person, because she would always have makeup, a little bit of makeup on, always had her hair just right, always had nice shoes on, always had her dress, slacks on, was always properly dressed and, really dressed good. But I seen the soul of the woman. Her hair was not done. Her makeup was not done. Sometimes she didn't have her teeth in. Sometimes she didn't have her glasses on. So I got to see the soul of my grandma, which was beautiful. That was the lesson for me, was the beauty of the soul of the person. So that's what I want to leave the video with you on. I wrote this song for my grandma. So anybody that that you might have passed on, when you play this song, it might bring some tears to your eyes. Sometimes it does me, sometimes it doesn't. But if you think about that person, maybe they will visit to you in your images, and you can see them how you remember them. But maybe you can see the soul of the person, and that's the beauty of Pete's song, folks. I couldn't say it any better. But that's the whole story behind it. My grandma never got to hear it while she was here, but I hope she hears it in heaven now. So this has been the Rock and Roll King. Rusty's visited me twice in this video. Love this guy. Love my grandma. Pete, if you're listening and watching, that song was for you. But until next time, folks, Rock and Roll King Robert R. McFarland talking to you. Music's the soundtrack to life. Have some every day. It's all for one, one for all, and all for rock and roll. Okay, buddy.